Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress.
Shouldn't the president be higher than anyone else? That's how it's worked. The patriarch in charge says above everyone. Though the point is that he's not doing that. The idea is that he's here accountable to Congress, and he's being brought here to give the State of the Union address. Not like he's in charge here. That's the reason why he's being introduced by them. You know, it's like you're being brought here to be held accountable to the work you're doing and the state of the nation, not like you're here to be in charge. That's the idea.
By the way, Chief Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice, and retired Justice of the Supreme Court, and to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy.
It is, Siobhan.
Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries.
For the first time, an African-American is a minority. Mr. Jeffries, congratulations on being the first black minority.
He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations to the longest-serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch?
Wow. He's not. That's the best camera angle we have for Mitch. There we go.
And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another, another term as Senate Minority Leader. I think you, only this time you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're the majority leader. About that much bigger? Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
Man, it's gonna be like agonizing to listen to him talk, man. He's like, oh my God. There's more adrenochrome than...
The story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it.
That is not true.
Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs. More jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years because of you all, because of the American people. 2 years ago, and 2 years ago, COVID had shut down, our businesses were closed, our schools were robbed of so much, and today, COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threat since the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
We overcame COVID. We did it. COVID's done. Congratulations.
We're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know,
nobody asks him to define America.
Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe.
Oh my God!
It came together to pass once in a generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact, it's important. And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act.
I maintain, by the way, that the insistence on promoting bipartisanship in an era where the Republican Party is unabashedly fascist and openly planning to undo democracy is a form of collaborationism. If things progress the way I think they will, history will remember Biden and the Democrats alongside fucking Hindenburg, in terms of just like paving the way.
The Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love. And to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work.
What's the alternative, though? Just locking up the dumb fucks? Yes. Yes, as a matter of fact. Yes. Sedition is a real crime. And you could do that. Or, if you want a nice middling centrist road to take, he could say, like, hey, despite constant Republican obstructionism, who have maliciously banned every single bill we tried to get through, including this act and this act and this act, which all would have helped Americans, we managed to, of our own will, do some good stuff. But no, instead we have to promote this bipartisanship bullshit. As though there are any middle-of-the-road people or Republicans who are going to hear this and go, ah, well, I was all in favor of Ron DeSantis building the death camps, but, you know, now I'm actually totally swayed by the neutrality and blandness of Joe Biden.
Together and find consensus on important
Keppel's
things.
right.
In this
Hello,
Congress as
Keppel.
well. I think.
And Kepsters, Wigglers.
You all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time.
What?
Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be.
And the unions, remember, like the strike you busted? I remember. It only just happened.
Along the way, something else we lost. Pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well.
Keep in mind this is sped up.
I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it.
Fuck that bullshit. A job is 100% about money. You sell your labor for money. Your fucking respect and dignity as a human being have nothing to do with the job that you hold. Well, I guess if you're some kind of like super cool like traveling doctor or whatever, like a job itself is just something you do to survive. Does not make you more respectable fundamentally. It can if you have a super cool job, but fundamentally it's not. It's level.
Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low.
What about the underemployment rate?
Near record unemployment. Near record unemployment for black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written?
What about, like, how many Americans are living paycheck to paycheck?
Where is it written that America can't lead the world in...
What's underemployment? Underemployment is when a person has a job, but the job does not pay enough to meet their needs. What about, like, all the people who have to work 2 or 3 jobs with, like, rotating shifts, so they don't even know what their schedule is going to be until, like, the week beforehand? They can't make any plans ever because they're constantly being jerked around by, like, multiple employers who just, like, book them the, like, 23.5 hours so they don't qualify for benefits.
Manufacturing. I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks, Inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine.
Looks like the U6 is lower than ever for what it's worth. It's still a hell of a lot higher than the current unemployment rate. Also, I don't, like, this isn't the measure that I'm going by here. The U6, like, if you talk to people in, like, any part of America right now, a ton of them are barely scraping by. When I mean underemployment, I don't mean whatever bullshit, like, numbers they pull through that lets them, like, keep things looking pretty and clean. I mean, like, functionally, how many people are actually getting some wiggle room because of their job? For which it would have to be, like, a minority of people, because most people are scraping by, right? Sorry, I shouldn't have said underemployment. I should have said how many people are fucked anyway, I guess. What's, like, the average amount in American saving account? Like, mean or median? Median, I don't know, what, $5?
But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months, while take-home pay has gone up. Additionally, over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way,
apparently the median bank account balance for an American is $5,300. That means that if you took every American, line them up from least amount in bank account to most, the person in the middle would have 5.3 thousand, or in other words, 1 ER visit. For Americans under 35, it's more like 3,000. For Americans like 50 to 60, it's like 6,000.
Every time someone starts a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more.
What is this? Why does this person look like this?
These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off, so did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act. Folks, I know I've been criticized for saying...
Just so people know it's not a joke, microchip distribution is literally one of the biggest, like, political econ fighting grounds right now. This is one of the reasons why Taiwan is such a big deal for America and for China. The supply chain and the technical know-how and the facilities necessary to produce microchips, it's incredibly complicated, it's incredibly demanding, and Taiwan produces how much? Hold on. How many chips Taiwan produces? Taiwan, 65% of the world's semiconductors and almost 90% of the world's advanced chips. 90% in one island country, one tiny island country that has been threatened by China with invasion for like 70 years now.
Saying this, but I'm not changing my view. We're going to make sure the supply chain for America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America. We've already created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies.
Is this bipartisan? Republicans vote on it? Yeah, here, U.S. computer chip industry grants. 219 yays from Democrats, 187 nays from Republican. Almost all of them, every single no, Republican. They're purely obstructionist. If a thing would make your life better, the Republicans are against it. Like, literally all the time. They made it extremely clear when Mitch McConnell took the Senate back in 2010, which was just the Republican agenda in the Senate and now in the House is pure obstructionism. That's it. They have no interests or desires other than sabotaging Democratic presidencies. That's it. They were very clear about that.
That have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams.
McConnell didn't become majority leader. Okay, 2014. Sorry, I remembered it being a midterm election. I forgot if it was 2010 or 2014. My bad. Is America wanting to become the center of chip manufacturing bad news for Taiwan? Maybe. There's a lot on Taiwan's plate right now. I think it would be a good thing if we did more chip manufacturing here in the United States. I think that'd be good. America is a less immediately threatened by invasion country, and we kind of need more of those chips. It's kind of important.
It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment. 7,000 construction jobs. 3,000 jobs in those factories once they're finished. They call them factories. Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree. Jobs. Because we work together, these jobs where people don't have to leave home to search for opportunity. And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks, as you all know, we used to be #1 in the world in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th in the world. The United States of America, 13th.
That's bullshit. There's no way we're that high up. No fucking shot. There's no way that... Wait, 13th by what metric? How much road mileage we've laid down? Bullshit. There's no way we're 13th. No fucking way, dude. Our cities are crumbling to dust, and we have incredibly bad public infrastructure. Army Corps of Engineers gives us like a D- in our infrastructure. Hold on. Is that true? That low? Army Corps Engineers rate infrastructure. No, the last one for 2021, it's C-. Wait, hold on. U.S. infrastructure grade. Explore the categories. We grade 17 category. Oh, wait, this isn't the Army Corps of Engineers. This is a different thing. Bridges. Okay, I'm bored now.
In the world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure. But now we're coming back because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system.
Hey, remember all the provisions from the Build Back Better Act that got cut because Republicans wouldn't vote for it? Remember? I remember that. Want to talk about bipartisanship? Want to talk about that? Okay.
And folks, already we've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland. Projects that are going to put thousands of people to work rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. And I mean this sincerely. I want to thank my Republican friends who voted for the law, and my Republican friends who voted against it as well. But I still get asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry. I promised I'd be a president for all Americans. We'll fund these projects. And I'll see you at the groundbreaking.
Hey, remember back when Donald Trump was president and he threatened to withhold COVID relief money from states that had governors that had criticized him? I remember that.
Look, this law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago, badly needed repairs, one of the nation's most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River. And folks, We've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans and from both states to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project. And while I was there, I met a young woman named Sarah, who's here tonight. I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well,
Hi, Sarah.
For 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as the Cowboys in the Sky.
I love all the bipartisanship going on here, where like literally just shouting out, "Hey, here's a U.S. worker. Let's make things good," and Republicans are all still just sitting. You know, I love that. It's great. We're living in a very bipartisan era.
Known as the Cowboys in the Sky. The folks who built Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building back pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America, 400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water instead of having permanent damage to their brain. Look, we're making sure that every community in America has access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by McDonald's parking lot to help them do their homework online with their kids.
Hey, quick question. I know that I'm like really privileged in this respect because I've spent most of my life, at least, in areas with really good internet options. I feel like the average internet speed in America has definitely gone up a lot over the past 10 years, right? When I had just graduated high school, I remember that it was a huge issue that large parts of the country had basically nothing. But I feel like most of the country now has like at least like 10 megabits or 20, like usable enough that you can do stuff with it. Not most. I don't actually know. Where are the bad areas of the country right now in terms of like internet connectivity? How rural do you have to get before it gets really bad? Still vastly inferior to EU and Asia. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Wyoming, yeah. But do we want people from Wyoming using the internet? I don't know.
Many thousands we're doing across the country. And when we do these projects, and again, I get criticized.
Republicans voted against the anti-child sex crime bill. Yeah, I remember that. There was literally a bill to help fight child abuse, and all the Republicans voted against it. Well, not all of them. It was all Republicans, though, wasn't it? Were there any Democrats that voted against it? Yeah.
This, but I make no excuses for it. We're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. Folks, and it's totally consistent with international trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards require all...
Sorry, last time I showed this, just to like follow up on the point. FCC national broadband map. So I guess this shows like where the coverage is at. I guess like pretty much all of Nevada has none, which kind of makes sense. Alaska makes sense. Looks like, wow, New York is so covered that like within a 150-mile radius of New York is just like full blue. That's crazy. Like even LA has a smaller net of coverage than that by far. That's like a massive aura. Yeah, well, all right.
Construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America. Made in America. I mean it. Lumber, glass, drywall, fiber optic cable. And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten.
What?
Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back. Because of choices we made in the last several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling.
This is the craziest thing to me, man. Price of living is so high in a lot of city areas that even a lot of people with 6-figure salaries are living paycheck to paycheck. I know there are people on Twitter who will freak out at this take, but legit, and it's completely true. If you live in some parts of San Francisco, Seattle, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, basically any major city, there are parts that you can live in there where, like, getting paid $150,000 a year is actually, like, not a lot. Like, it's actually not enough. That will get swallowed by rent, and by, like, basic cost of living stuff, you know. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Wondering what in God's names happens if your spouse gets cancer, or your child gets deadly ill.
Whoa, what's up?
Or something happens to you.
He's crazy, man. He really does look like a fucking time traveler from the past, or like somebody unfroze a caveman and put him in a suit. This like record scratch. I bet you're wondering how I ended up like this. You know, you see, due to global warming, a bit of the ice sheet broke off, and I ended up drifting all the way over to PA, where I was thawed and landed on the beach. I said, clutching my head, you know.
What are you going to get money to pay for those medical bills? Or are you going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it? I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that
Postal
I signed into law,
true.
We're taking on powerful interests to bring healthcare costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any nation in the world. Let me say it again. We pay more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth.
The system works.
For example, 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do, and in the audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone. It costs the drug companies roughly $10 a vial to make that insulin. Packaging and all, you may get up to $13. But Big Pharma has been unfairly charging people hundreds of dollars, $400 to $500 a month, making record profits. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Translator's note, it kept happening.
So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed a law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors.
Did you see Josh Hawley's wife is involved in the suit to ban nationwide the abortion pill? Single judge could outlaw the abortion pill nationwide. That's not even the worst of it. Oh, that's cool. So wait, by abortion pill, they don't mean, they're not like using the wrong term for Plan B, right? They mean the actual abortion pill? Because people will call Plan B an abortion pill, but what it actually does is it just prevents the conception, but with it does a thing. But then there's the abortion pill, which just flushes out your system. I think they're referring to both. Oh, cool, yeah. Abortion pills are widely popular. Well, yeah, they're one of the better options if you've only been pregnant for a little bit. Plan B, when Republicans go after Plan B and contraception broadly, they're making it so clear what their actual priorities are. Plan B isn't an abortion; it prevents fertilization of the egg. It does, like, if you take Plan B, you're not, like, taking Plan B after you've been nutted and bare kills as many fetuses as jerking off into a tissue. It also wrecks your hormones. It sucks. Yeah. Plan B is pretty rough in your body. It's not the best option. No, it prevents implantation. Oh, wait, is that true? It prevents implantation, but the egg is... Wait, hold on. What does Plan B do? I thought it prevented fertilization by doing a thingy. But like, I thought it like thickened the walls of the thing. What is it? Hold on. Which can prevent ovulation, block fertilization, or keep a fertilized egg from implanting in the uterus. It can do all of those things? Holy shit, that's like a miracle drug. It does all of them? It can block fertilization, and it can prevent a fertilized egg from implanting a uterus, and it can prevent ovulation? No wonder it wrecks your hormones. Holy shit, it's like swallowing a fucking Swiss utility knife. Jesus. Okay, yeah, I didn't know it did all those things. Yeah, it's actually just a bomb. You just take a bomb, you get like a in your stomach.
It's on Medicare. People are just finding out. I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting. Look, there are millions of other Americans who do not or are not on Medicare, including 200,000 young people with type 1 diabetes and need this insulin to stay alive. Let's finish the job this time. Let's cap the cost of insulin for everybody at $35.
I want a uterus so fucking bad. Yeah, I'm sure you do, okay? However, just keep in mind, life's probably going to be a lot harder for people with uteruses after Republicans ban all contraception and all abortion nationwide. Then again, if you're saying that, you're probably also trans, which means that you're, you know what, never mind.
Folks, the big pharma is still going to do very well, I promise you all. I promise you, they're going to do very well. This law also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. It costs out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of $2,000 a year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter how much your drug costs are. Because you know why? You all know it. Many of you, like many in my family, have cancer. You know the drugs can range from $10,000, $11,000, $14,000, $15,000 for the cancer drugs. If drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices. Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money. It cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars. By hundreds of billions of dollars.
What the fuck was that tone?
These prescription drugs are drugs purchased by Medicare to keep their commitment to the seniors. Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 or $500 a month, you're paying $15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why wouldn't we want that? Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm going to exaggerate, but threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay, that's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of prescription drugs, I will veto it. Look, I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law...
This is just fascism, Vaush. Jesus, I hate this animal. What Biden's doing isn't fascism. It's neoliberalism. It's still bad. It's not... This isn't fascism, though. This is, still very stupid, though.
Signed last year, saving millions or saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid. Look, The Inflation Reduction Act is also the most significant investment ever.
What the fuck is Cinnamon wearing? I have no fucking idea, dude. I have no goddamn idea. I can't believe this is our bisexual representation in Congress. Yeah, one of the biggest things that is so important for us to move our healthcare system forward that never gets talked about in the halls of Congress is detaching healthcare from like businesses. It's so fucking insane. It's so wild how we just settled on the idea of like, yeah, man, you should be able to get healthcare like tied to your job. So like, because people who have been laid off never need health coverage. Like, people lose their jobs all the time as a result of the conditions that they would need healthcare for. Like, it's completely insane. It makes no sense. No sense at all.
In climate change, ever. Lower utility bills.
Oh, and from a Marxist perspective, it's also like class warfare. The explicit reason that was done is to lower the bargaining abilities of workers, because now, if they threaten to like leave their job because of poor treatment, it's like, oh, okay, sure, leave your health care. It massively lowers like the leverage workers potentially have in their employers.
Creating American jobs, leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri.
What?
And we don't have global warming? Not
Missouri.
a problem. In addition to emergency recovery, from Puerto Rico to Florida to Idaho, we're rebuilding for the long term. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires.
Missouri.
Roads and water systems will stand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country by tens of thousands of IBEW workers. And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances. Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an obligation, not to ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren, to confront it. I'm proud of how America, at last, is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to...
Cool. To support your point, there's some great evidence that social health insurance in the U.S. increased the rate of new business formation. Yeah, because if you're starting up a business, you have to like do all the front work on like healthcare providing. Yeah, it's bad for starting up new businesses.
Finish the job. Last is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to finish the job. And we pay for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Let's begin.
Oh, man. Man, they even look like demons. It really is incredible how, like, naturally... It's like, they really are, like, on another plane. Yeah, just, it's incredible, you know? It just look inhuman.
Look, I'm a capitalist. But pay your fair share. I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair.
Notice how nobody clapped after the "I'm a capitalist but pay your fair share" thing. I think that's because it's like universally weak messaging, even with centrists and liberals. I don't think anybody is motivated by that. People who are independent, who worry that like Joe Biden might be too socialist for them, aren't going to be convinced he's not because he says that. Republicans aren't going to be convinced he's not a socialist because he says that. People who are already on the left, but like liberal, already know that. People who are liberal don't think he's a socialist. And people who are socialists are going to listen to that and hear, oh, well, okay, so he's not fundamentally going to change anything. I actually think that messaging resonates with literally zero people. It doesn't convince anyone. You know, like that would be the kind of messaging that you would expect to hear if he was trying to distinguish himself with some kind of socialist alternative, you know, like how he's different from them. But there is no such alternative. It doesn't exist. He's the head of the left-leaning party in a duopoly. Like what is being done there?
Look, the idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays.
Why does Warren have a crayon on her jacket? I don't know. I'm guessing it has something to do with, like, teachers?
And I need to be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny. But let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter. I mean it. Think about it.
The whole Republican side sitting down because they all fully want firefighters and teachers to be paying more in taxes than billionaires.
I mean, look. I know you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits? Last year they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells, all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we?
Yeah, just always remember, okay? Whenever you're hearing about inflation, because, like, there are economic reasons why suddenly everything costs more, never forget, okay? Corporate profits dropped because of COVID for 1/2 of 1 year, all right? By this point, they had already gone higher than they were prior to the pandemic, and then after that, it's just been rocketing upwards at a faster rate than it was before the pandemic. There is a not only higher corporate profits after the pandemic than before, there is a higher rate of additional corporate profit accumulation after the pandemic than before. So, like, man, why are eggs so expensive? Corporations wouldn't just, like, raise the price on stuff for more money, would they? Yes, they would. They love doing that. All corporations have to do to decide who gets to be the president is just arbitrarily raise the price of gas and oil or whatever. That's it. That's all they have to do. It's not illegal. They can do that. They can just make it cost more. They're allowed to do that.
Invest in them. I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade, and that's going to exceed and beyond that. We're going to need it. Production. If they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down, instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock.
Also, listen to how weak this messaging is in the centrist angle. I always thought the best way you could sell green energy is by promoting American growth as like an innovator and like factory jobs, right? Because if we were to really, really commit to like solar, by the way, solar energy is crazy cheap now. Hold on. Cost of different types of energy. Hold on. Because the technology on this, you can't make oil have more energy. That's not possible. Every year there is less oil on Earth. It takes more energy to get that oil, and oil has a set amount of energy that you get from combusting it. That's it. There are flat limits to this. The cost of solar, where is that chart that I was looking at? The cost of solar energy has plummeted over the past few years. This is from Solar Energy Insight, so I guess this would be kind of like a biased source. What is this? What kind of chart is this? Base cost, levelized cost of electricity per megawatt hour. Solar standalone? So wait, this is the least cost? This seems kind of arbitrary. Wait, hold on. Energy harvested from sunlight through systems not connected to the grid. $32, and then everything else is more. Wind has gotten more expensive. Wind is, yeah, this chart is very confusingly laid out. Hold on. Let me see if I can find one that lays this out a bit more intuitively. Yeah, it's mostly solar that's gone down. I think there's kind of a hard limit on energy from wind as well. And you have to build like really, really, really big facilities for wind, whereas there's a lot more micro scaling that you can do with solar. It's a little bit more variable, I think, a bit more adjustable. There's a good chart on this page. Here, let me give it a look. I love good charts. They're like my favorite thing. Solar growth, solar workers, job. Growth in solar has led by falling prices. Installed capacity and blended average PV system price. Okay, but like compared to other, we would obviously need a comparison to like coal. Otherwise, price of different energy sources. Why is it so difficult to find this? They don't want you to know? Yeah, I bet not. Is this it? When did this chart get made? Electricity from renewables is now cheaper than ever. Solar voltaic has gone way down, minus 90% change, from $359 to $37 for comparable energy use. When is this from? 2009 was the start. 2020 then. Okay. Look, shut up. The point that I'm trying to get at here, okay, is that I always thought the best way you could sell green energy was not from a climate angle. Sell it instead as an economic growth and like industrial jobs angle, okay? Because America has fallen behind in manufacturing in a lot of ways, and you could sell like, yeah, we can get hundreds of thousands of new jobs by being the world's leading producer of these kinds of energy. We would not only be able to more efficiently and cheaply power our country, but we'd be able to sell this technology to other countries and so on and so forth, you know? Like, don't frame it like a climate change thing. Frame it like a jobs program, because that's what everyone does. If you want something to pass through Congress, it had better have jobs somewhere in its name or description, because that's the only fucking metric they pretend to care about.
Rewarding the CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments. They'll still make considerable profit. Let's finish the job and close the loophole to allow very wealthy to avoid paying their taxes. Instead of cutting the number of audits for wealthy taxpayers, I just signed a law to reduce the deficit by $114 billion by cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. Woo! That's being fiscally
in shock.
Responsible. In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion. The largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one. Well, they're the facts. Check it out. Whoa. Check it out. How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis. They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster to the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit. Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned. So some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans...
Devastated. Why do Republicans think U.S. debt is like household debt? They don't. Republicans are more aware of how the government functions than you think they are. They're in favor of obstructionism, and one of the best ways they can promote obstructionism is by selling this like child-brained attitude towards nation economics. It's just like a political rallying cry for their base. It has nothing to do with their actual political positions. Are you saying they govern in bad faith? Maybe. I might be saying that.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you.
That's how MTG dressed to this? In this white coat? That is unironically true, by the way. I didn't understand what he said because he's like mumbling like an old man. Did he say that they want to cut Social Security and Medicare? They objectively do. That's not arguable.
Give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep
Conversion therapy. He said they want Social Security to sundown. Oh, okay, nice meme, yeah. They totally do, by the way.
keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not
I think this is actually the most heckling that I've ever seen during a State of the Union address.
naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks,
it makes him look so incredibly weak. Look at McCarthy, haha. Yeah, because they're openly disrespecting him, you know? Again, like, we're like maybe a couple of years away from all of this being torn apart anyway. But like, look at this. It's like that you have the liberal president up here while half of the audience is screaming at him. You know, the fascists.
so folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be sponsored. All right. I'm ready. We got unanimity.
Vaush, would you be fine with Dems booing a conservative if a Khan was giving the speech? Yes. I am okay with any amount of disrespect against fascists, and I am okay with zero disrespect from fascists. Yes, 100%. I don't care if they throw rocks at a fascist who's up there. I don't give a shit. But if it's not a fascist up there and they're a fascist, then they can't do anything. And they go to jail. That's the rule.
Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we currently are, let's stand up for seniors.
The Social Security stuff, the Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid stuff, probably just Medicare, is actually going to be one of the toughest political battles for Republicans because Republicans are incapable of winning without the support of the ultra old. Like if the 65 and up demographic did not vote, Republicans would be like in the water, politically. So the problem is that Social Security and Medicare are both old people things. Getting rid of that politically is going to be incredibly tough for Republicans, but they really want to do it, you know?
Stand up and show them. We'll not cut Social Security.
There we go. Now we're all standing. See? For this one, they have to give.
Those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to take away.
Okay, that I think was okay from him. I think this right here specifically, this I think is good.
Be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem. Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that. I can tell you, the plan I'm going
You all know how I feel about this.
to show you is going to cut the deficit by another $2 trillion. And it won't cut a single bit of Medicare or Social Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Look. Here's the deal. They aren't just taking advantage of the tax code. They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer. Here's my message to all of you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills, stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far. We're protecting seniors' life savings by cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country.
The only time I'm okay with him bringing up capitalism like this is when he points out the fact that it's anti-capitalistic to try to prevent competition from happening. It's not true, obviously. Capitalism naturally gravitates towards monopoly. That's a fact. We know that. But it's also kind of like a good invective to throw at opposition, right? Because it's like well, if you care about capitalism, then you should care about competition, huh? Then why do we have a monopoly in this? It's like it's a fake point, but it's also one that kind of goads a little bit. And I'm okay if I would much rather have a bunch of like centrist liberal Democrats who are like I don't know, kind of militant about the idea that competition is necessary for capitalism to function than ones that aren't, if that makes any sense. I would rather have Democrats go for like the trust-busting, union-building road of capitalism than one in which they're totally like neutral on those issues. Obviously, the Democrats aren't going to suddenly become socialist, but I think being concerned with monopolization is like one of those wedge issues that bringing attention to can be pretty good. Like, you know, we're talking like degrees of bad here, but yeah. So.
I signed a bipartisan bill to cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms
lyrical, spiritual individual.
an unfair advantage. My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75% from $30 to $8.
Wait, are people using the bleh emote to refer to exasperation as opposed to oopsie whoopsie? No, guys, have you seen the anime GIF? In the anime GIF, she's like "eto e bleh" because she made a mistake and she's stupid. It's a different use case. It's like maybe it needs to be like the GIF. Like that. I haven't seen it. I shower daily. Ah, okay, gotcha. I forgive you.
Look, junk fees may not matter to the very
Let
wealthy,
chat
but
be
they
free.
matter to
I'm
most
taking
other
it
folks
away.
in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill. Those fees can cost you up to $90 a night at hotels that aren't even resorts. The idea that cable, internet, and cell phone companies can charge you $200 or more if you decide to switch to another provider. Give me a break. We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And we'll prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for family just to be able to sit together. Baggage fees are bad enough. Airlines can't treat your child like a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being played for suckers. So pass the Junk Fee Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off. For too long, workers have been getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements with the jobs they take. 30 million. So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more. It just changed. But they just changed it because we exposed it. That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up. But not anymore. We're banning those agreements so companies have to compete for workers and pay them what they're worth. And I must tell you, this is bound to get a response from my friends on my left with the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act. Because business...
Biden, you just shut down a strike. You just shut down a strike from one of the largest remaining collective unions.
Have a right.
Keeper Gore.
Right to form a union. And let's guarantee all workers have a living wage. Let's make sure working parents can afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave, affordable child care. That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full child tax credit, which gave tens of millions of parents some breathing room and cut child poverty in half to the lowest level in history. And by the way, when we do all these things, we increase productivity. We increase economic growth. So let's finish the job and get more families access to affordable, quality housing. Let's get seniors who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are doing God's work. These plans are fully paid for and we can afford to do them. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, 12 years of it universal in the last century, we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation in the world. But the rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full time, has an expression.
They haven't caught up. They've left us in the dust. How far behind are we? Where does USA rank on education? Education ratings by country. Okay, well, this is some hot and fresh bullshit here. Number 1? Since when? Then why is this one saying that we're behind? Okay, wait, is this one of those things where there are like 57 different systems that are rating it? The OECD says we rank 14th. Business Insider says we rank 27th for healthcare and education. Okay, so it's just like, it's whatever. It's like everyone can say everything, I guess. On the most recent PISA results from 2015, placed the U.S. an unimpressive 38th out of 71 countries in math and 24th in science. So in science, according to this one, we're getting outdone by Singapore, Japan, Estonia, Taiwan, Finland, Macau, Canada, Vietnam, Hong Kong, South Korea, Slovenia, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, Netherlands, UK, Switzerland, Ireland, Denmark, Belgium, Poland, Portugal, Norway, and then the United States. On mathematics, we're all the way down here next to Israel, below the average. And we're basically average on reading. But, like, this is being average on a list that includes... Keep in mind that this is being average on a list that includes Lebanon, Kosovo, Algeria, Macedonia, Qatar, Georgia, Mexico, Montenegro. So being average on this list... This is not a list that exclusively contains, like, G20 countries here.
I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to outcompete us. Any nation that out-educates is going to outcompete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century. We want to have the best educated workforce. Let's finish the job by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise. We're making progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school, provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks,
public education in the United States really does fucking suck. There are so many issues that I've talked before about the concept of being like a good citizen. I don't know. I feel like America's like hyper individualism here manifests as a kind of like contemptuousness towards the concept of self betterment for like because it feels I don't know. We have a really bad attitude towards education. It's only gotten worse with time, I feel like, too. Our universities are really, really good, but like this is one of the problems. Okay, have you guys ever heard about how like Asian people are discriminated against in like universities? So we have really good universities here in the States, which is essentially because they're all like ultra wealthy businesses, and they take a ton of money from people. The truth is, if you go to like UCLA or whatever, they have like admission guidelines that are weighted based on the likelihood of people from your racial group of being like, economic attainment. And this discriminates heavily against Asian students because a ton of Asian students who go to UCLA are the children of like wealthy Chinese people who like send their kids over for university education. So they're coming in like out of nowhere from America's perspective with a fuck ton of money and really, really, really high test scores. So they like the affirmative action like skews against them harder than it does white people by far. Because with white people here in America, like there are white people everywhere in the States, which means that you're getting like poor people, rich people, smart people, dumb people. But all the Chinese students who are being brought over are like rich and have really high scores. So they're basically like massively outcompeting. This is this is like the opposite end of the brain drain problem, where if you have like good institutions but like don't take care of your own citizens, the opportunities offered by your institutions will sometimes be swept up by like people who travel over to get them, It's just like a displacement issue. Our reading levels are stagnating at a low score. Yeah, that tracks.
folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down everything, let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself.
Can you address the talking point that making college free somehow devalues it? Yeah, I've got one. It's retarded. That's a retarded argument. If anyone believes that, they're retarded. Okay, got it. Nice.
While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and
because people just aren't testing anymore.
Open our country back up, and soon we'll end the public health emergency. But that's called a public health emergency. But we'll remember the toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving, children orphaned, empty chairs at the dining room table constantly reminding you that she used to sit there. Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need to monitor dozens of variants and support new vaccines and treatments. So Congress needs to fund these efforts and keep America safe. And as we emerge from this crisis stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat.
No shot they go over people who did PPP fraud. That was like everybody. Everybody in America did PPP fraud. That was just if you had if you had a LLC or up, you just got extra money out of nowhere. Good luck with that.
Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack
Can you watch on normal speed for a sec? I want to see how it sounds.
down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic.
Johnny,
We
back
have an
up.
obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome.
Huh. Ah, I didn't. Okay.
We had to bury Tyree last week. As many of you personally know, there's no
Wait, can I get... Wait, did the Republicans stand up for that? Okay, they did. Even they had to there. Okay, I was thinking, so hold on, how overt do we want to be? Okay, even they had to there. Bet you if it was white cops, they wouldn't have.
heartache grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children. I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. The faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and character that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there. Our children have a right to come home safely. Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America. We know police officers put their lives on the line every single night and day. And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk.
There we go. Now we get everyone standing up. As long as we... Yep, there we go.
And they risk their lives every time they put that shield on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. We have to do better. Give law enforcement the real training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs. More investment in housing, education, and job training. All this can help prevent violence in the first place. And when police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable. With the support.
With money that comes from the police department, not money that comes from the city treasuries. Dude, if settlement payouts from cop misbehavior came from the police department budget and not from the city budget, instantly, this would go away, or at least significantly diminish. Right now, a cop kills somebody, beats them up, whatever, they charge a lot of money, millions of dollars in settlement. That comes from the city's budget. If that came from the police department budget, instantly, now all of a sudden they will care. You have to give incentives.
of the families of victims, civil rights groups, and law enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers, banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves.
They would still not pay that much because it's rare? Oh, you'd think. Hold on. Just a second. We're going to find out. Dun, dun. Vroom. Dun, dun. Vroom. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, yeah. They would care. Wouldn't that give them more of an incentive to cover shit up? They already do. They already cover shit up as much as they can. They've been covering shit up like nonstop. But at least now there would be real consequences if they fuck up.
To make the words of Tyler's mom true, something good must come from this. Something good. And all of us, folks, it's difficult, but it's simple. All of us in this chamber, we need to rise to this moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something. Do something. That was the plea of parents who lost.
Yeah, in 2016, the LAPD paid nearly $81 million in legal settlements. So that's $81 million LAPD budget 2016. The fiscal budget for the LAPD back in 2016 was Wow, this sure is taking a while to load. That's crazy. Seriously, why is this taking so long to load? Here. Proposed operating budget fiscal year 2016. 8.7 billion, which means that that would mean that 81 million would be about 1% in legal settlements of their budget. That would definitely incentivize them to keep on good behavior. So nothing? No, 1% of their annual budget is a lot. For an institution of that size, that is a lot. Really? Yeah, no, it is.
Lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God. Thank God we did. Passing the most sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades. That includes things like that the majority of responsible gun owners already support. Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red flag laws, keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others. But we know our work is not done.
And anyone deemed by the state to be seditious.
Joining us tonight is Brandon Say, a 26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon now works at a dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close, and he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestle the semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all. I led the fight to do that in 1994. In 10 years, that ban was law, mass shootings went down. After we let it expire in the Republican administration, mass shootings tripled. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons. And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again. We now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and the order. Congress must restore.
Are you fucking kidding? That was the weakest attempt at a chant I have ever heard. Oh my fucking God. I just felt my testosterone levels plummet. Jesus Christ. That was so weak. Oh my God. Border. I think they were saying border. Border. What were they even trying to do? I don't know, man. It was too limp.
Or the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade, and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a constitutional right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. Well, already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity. Our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. A murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity.
Show the room.
1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would.
There we go. Most Republicans are supportive of Ukraine. It's the far right, like MAGA types that are like openly pro-Putin. Most of them, it's not a broad Republican opposition. I don't think it's like a section of it. And tankies? Well, yeah, but there aren't any tankies in Congress.
And we did. We did. And together, we did what America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukraine's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here. We're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you as long as it takes. Our nation is working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict.
Xi.
But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed. I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world, but make no mistake about it. As we made...
It's so fucking stupid that our military growth gets framed as some kind of like opposition security thing. Like, yes, now we're in a better position than ever to combat China. China never had a chance. There was no... This is like building a skyscraper and saying that you're now finally in a position to outcompete your like engineering opponent who's like working on a sandcastle in a nearby like little sand pit for children, for babies to pee in. The idea, it's so fucking stupid. And all this shit does is promote the idea that our incessant funding of the military-industrial complex is some kind of necessary defensive measure, when in reality, we are so insanely far ahead of anyone who could ever be our competition that, like, we could stop doing any kind of military development, like any kind of R&D shit, and just sit on our current equipment for 2 decades, and I bet you that at that 2-decade mark, we would still be the strongest military in the world, doing nothing but existing maintenance. Like, there is so much. We're so much ahead. Like, just, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah.
Clear last week. If China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracies have grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one.
What?
America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping up, spending more, and doing more. Look, the bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never. Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed...
I'm glad we get the USA chance after, like, we have big guns and not after literally anything else or anything that matters. So fucking stupid. Such a stupid joke country. If we were a sane country, then the only thing Joe Biden would have to say here, the only thing that he would have to contribute on this, like, national defense section is, we were the strongest country on earth when I took power, and we still are. It is by an enormous metric. There is only one superpower. And then he would just move on. And that's it. That would be truthful. We wouldn't like engage in this incessant fear mongering, you know?
It was impossible, but I never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed the Heath Robinson PACT Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year. I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction.
All right.
And eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. You got it.
What the fuck is going on over there?
So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl.
What was that?
fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year.
Border, right. They're saying border, like, haha, the border, right. Close the border, right. Gotcha.
Big, you got it. So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border. Working with couriers like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl.
Yeah, just a reminder, and just in case you ever have, this ammunition. Oh, SDO, we had the same idea. Yeah, if we're taking a look at drug overdose deaths, we saw obviously a big spike up in 2020, but like Donald Trump's presidency included like basically the biggest spike we've had in overdose deaths in recent memory. Also, boy, those sure are going up, huh? Who boy, who dilly. It's majority fentanyl, I think. Fentanyl deaths per year. In 2021, 70,600 people died of fentanyl. In 2020, it was 56,000. So yeah, COVID. More than 1 million people have died since 1999 from a drug overdose. How much of it is fentanyl? I think fentanyl is like 80% or something of modern drug overdose deaths. Because, like, they cut fentanyl to a bunch of other stuff, right? Yeah. Jesus, look at that. The crisis came out of, like, nowhere. Really spiked up when Trump became president. Curious. Yeah. They put it in everything to cut with. It's like in everything now. Yeah. I know that I'm like generally anti-drug and biased in that respect, but like sincerely, guys, here's the realio dealio, all right? From your cool local neighborhood high on life guy, all right? Please God, to not just like get random drugs, okay? Please. It's a bad time for that kind of behavior. The fentanyl thing would be instantly fixed if we decriminalized drugs and regulated them. Yes, that is true, because a lot of the fentanyl overdoses are from cutting, which would not be done if this was all being done above board. There are people who are seeking out fentanyl on its own, and for them, I guess we can, like, I don't know, we can rent a big ball pit and keep them in it until they're over their withdrawal, I guess. I don't know. We'll put them in the big ball pit. Big ball pit, okay? You need to fix the overprescription of opioids for pain. Yeah. The main like track line to fentanyl is like doctors and pharmaceutical. So doctors are paid by pharmaceutical companies at expositions and just generally to use their product, right? Like basically a doctor can. There's a million things that a doctor can do to help a person who's just come out from surgery. There are a lot of recommendations, a lot of different things they can decide to recommend, and pharmaceutical companies will say, hey, you should use opiate painkillers, because they're very effective and very cheap, and they're helpful, they'll bribe doctors or like convince them or whatever. And then people will have minor or major surgeries, and they'll be recommended from doctors opiate painkillers. And they are very effective, and they are very cheap, and they're also highly addictive. And then people will complete their healing process, and they will be addicted to opiates. And if you have an addiction to opiates, well, you can't just go and get more opiate painkillers. You have to go through the pharmaceutical system for that, and that's pretty difficult. There are people who have ongoing dependency issues with painkillers. That's a pretty common thing, but a lot of them will turn to street drugs, and one of the easiest ways you can get opioids is, well, fentanyl. It's not good. What part of fentanyl dangers are made up? I see a lot of people saying it's overhyped because the police and propaganda shows hype it up. Okay, to be clear, for some reason, there's this like mass hysteria going on with cops where they think that touching fentanyl or being near it will make them die or something. this is completely fake. This is literally like mass hysteria. It's like the dancing virus or whatever. Like it's actually like they're a bunch of like dry brain 60 IQ monkey numbskull fucks who like heard about it from a Facebook post, and they start having like an epileptic seizure from being in like near a plastic bag that has oregano in it or whatever, some bullshit like that. Here is something that's true about fentanyl. It is extremely dangerous if you put it in your body. That is true. That part is true.
Trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we give them greater access to mental health care at their schools.
Oh, sorry. New Jersey Republicans cutting budgets to opioid addiction treatment. Yeah. Never forget, okay? The only problem that Republicans have with opioids or with fentanyl crossing the border is the border part. They have no problem at all with Americans dying. They have no solutions to this. They will lower your wage. They will cut your medical benefits. They will defund Medicare and Medicaid. They will destroy the systems that might provide like addiction treatment, like everything. They'll make it worse on every level. The only thing they care about is like brown people at the border. That's it.
We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting or running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online. Ban targeted advertising to children and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us.
No, ban targeted advertisements to everyone. Fuck targeted advertising. Fuck opening up Amazon and getting recommendations for products that you were talking about in the living room with your like significant other 5 minutes ago. Fuck all of that, okay? It should be illegal for there to be any kind of advertisement content recommendation. When advertisers buy ads, they should be tossing that shit into the fucking void. And I'm saying this knowing that that would drastically reduce the revenue that I get from my YouTube channel.
Third, let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. Job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country.
Genuine question, what's wrong with targeted ads if it shows me stuff I want because I was talking about it lately? Because it feeds into a gigantic like data algorithm processing plan that gives corporations an ungodly amount of power when it comes to directly controlling the stuff you buy and consume. They also sell that data and use it for like basically every level of like corporate involvement in your life. We are like, yeah, you're being like targeted very specifically by it. We all are. And that data gets sold. So you're creating like basically an unprecedentedly powerful and nuanced surveillance state, except rather than it being controlled by an intelligence agency, it's being controlled by corporations who freely sell that information. Hey, at least when the NSA collects data on the people they investigate, that shit stays on NSA servers. This would be like the NSA getting the highest level of like wiretap like surveillance on everything you do and literally putting it up for sale. Like, if you can't see the downstream consequences of that, then I don't even know. Not to mention the broader ethical issues of, like, using targeted advertising to hyper-select the communities that people choose to be a part of online. TikTok is really bad about this, which means that corporations also have the ability to create or destroy communities based off what they think would be most algorithmically profitable. If TikTok decides it's more profitable to have certain types of communities and less profitable to have other types, then all they have to do is adjust the algorithms that direct people towards those communities for the consumption of that content, and kablamo, they have the ability to decide what people are into. It's an unprecedented level of corporate control, and it all stems down like purely from greed. It is like all of this gives us no convenience and is purely just so they make more money. You will not suffer, you will not have a worse life if you have to actively search for the things you want online rather than having it directly handed to you. Dennis
McDonough is here of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job.
80% sure TikTok is controlled by China? Oh, that sounds pretty conspiratorial, maybe.
I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruit veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years, turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases, provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and the daughter of immigrants from Panama.
This guy, an Irishman? You're kidding me. I never could have guessed. Jesus Christ.
They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter, Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month. They just found out Ava's beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer. And she's watching from the White House tonight if she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success. He thought big. He thought large. He moved. I believe we can do the same thing with cancer. Let's end cancer as we know it. Cure some cancers once and for all. Folks, there's one
Joe Biden has always had a really weird fixation on the concept of curing cancer, which I find really endearing. Yeah, he like all the way back to the beginning of his presidency and back during the primaries as well. He keeps bringing it up, like, we're going to cure cancer, we're going to cure cancer, which his son died of brain cancer. I know, it's just like, you can't really cure cancer. It doesn't really, like, which one? There's like a billion different, it's very complicated, you know? Not with that attitude? Yeah, I guess. Cuba has a lung cancer vaccine though. Yeah, but it's complicated, you know? Yeah. Look, he's old, just let him have it. Yeah, maybe we should, everyone just smile and nod, you know? Smile and nod. That's true, STL. STL says there is nothing unconquerable about by the indomitable human spirit. I agree. Yeah. Smile and wave, boys. Yeah. Even lung cancer is no longer a guaranteed death sentence. Yeah, I know. I wonder if we're ever going to develop some kind of like fully generalist way of curing cancer, you know? Something that like really works, I don't know, broadly. It would have to be, the only thing that I could think of, like the only commonality is that like all cancer cells don't obey their genetic programming to commit suicide if they're no longer being useful to the like whole body, right? That's one of the things you have to do to be a cancer cell. You have to like grow relentlessly. You have to you have to consume resources like an individual, like your own thing, rather than as a part of the human, and you can't commit suicide, which cells are supposed to do if they start malfunctioning. So you basically have to like inject tiny little just do it's, tiny little lightning bolt guys into the bloodstream to get them to do it, I guess. I don't know. Might be possible. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, cancer does kill a lot of people. Be nice to not have to deal with that. I feel so bad for young people with cancer, man. That fucking sucks. It's like you do nothing wrong your entire life, you stay healthy, and then it's like, oh, yeah, you have like the die disease now. Great. I mean, Michael Brooks just died of what? Like a brain aneurysm or like a blood clot in the head? It's just like very randomly. Blood clot in the neck? Oh yeah, in the neck. So it like kept blood from getting to the yeah. Ammo.
The reason why we've been able to do all of these things, our democracy itself.
I'm sorry, Sokdom.
It's the most fundamental thing of all. With democracy, everything's possible. Without it, nothing is. For the last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th. Here tonight in this chamber is a man who bears the scars of that brutal attack, but is as tough and as strong and as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up.
Dope hat. You know, I've noticed something kind of weird, which is that I associate wearing a suit and a hat outside with old-timey conservatism, but in my experience, there are like two kinds of 80-year-old guys, and one of them wears the suit and the hat, and the other kind basically just wears like a wife beater and boxers, or like dress like shit, or they just have like a big like American flag t-shirt that's 8 sizes too large. And I feel like the guy with the suit and the hat is the cooler old guy, like by far. I feel like despite me associating this clothing with conservatism, in reality, when you're like an old guy and you dress like this, like you're way cooler than like whatever else.
It's such a heinous act.
Shows you still care, I guess, yeah.
We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America. We have to protect the right to vote,
Whoa.
not suppress the fundamental right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form no safe harbor. Democracy.
And the Republicans stay still, of course.
Must not be a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been called to protect our democracy, defend it, stand up for it. And this is our moment. My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point, one of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we, the people. We're facing the test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best. Optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people. The only nation in the world built on an idea. The only one.
What? The only nation in the world built on an idea? What? Okay.
Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity. But we're the only nation based on an idea.
Oh, okay.
That all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong. I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as long as about any one of you have ever served here. But I've never been more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Well, that just happened. Not horrible, I guess. Pretty boring. The only thing here that was like really interesting, I think, was Joe Biden doing that whole so we're not going to defund Social Security Medicare thing, you know, like that. Apart from that, you know, not that much. Will you be covering the Sarah Huckabee Sanders response? Sure, why not? How are we doing?
That is a governor's mansion in Little Rock, where Sarah Huckabee Sanders will be speaking from in just a minute. Here she is.
4, 3.
Good evening.
This is the bad Sanders. It'll be deranged and conspiratorial. Yeah, I know about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. All right. Why the fuck is she giving the response? It does seem like kind of an odd pick, doesn't it? Wouldn't you expect them to do somebody else for their like rebuttal? I don't know.
I'm Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Being a mom
She's trying to become VP. Wait, that might actually be
to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear. So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden. From out of control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China. Biden and the Democrats have failed you. They know it, and you know it. And it's time for a change. Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea that government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people. Democrats want to rule us with more government control, but that's not who we are.
Is this going to be super boring? It is, isn't it? Because, like, I want her to give rebuttals that I can rebut myself, but she's just going to, like, just sort of vaguely gesture at some concepts with no direct relationship to anything he actually said. I mean, of course, she would have written this speech before Biden actually gave his speech, so she wouldn't have known his speech, which means that, yeah.
America is the greatest country the world has ever known. Because we're the free.
So it's not even a rebuttal. It's literally just like, okay, well, you heard that, but also we think he's bad. Is there anything here, like anything at all?
Country the world has ever known, with a people who are strong. Adversity and fear of the unknown can paralyze us. A rebuilt military and a world that was stable and at peace. But over the last 2 years, Democrats destroyed it all. Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history. As a mom, my heart breaks for every
Man, really? Just like that? We're gonna do the meme just like that? Okay.
parent who has lost a son or daughter to addiction. 100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses. Americans face every day. Most Americans simply want to live their lives in freedom and peace. But we are under attack in a left-wing culture war we didn't start and never wanted to fight.
Every you guys didn't start the culture war.
Every day we are told we must partake in their rituals, salute their flags, and worship their false idols.
What?
All while big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is, your freedom of speech.
What?
That's not normal. It's crazy, and it's wrong.
She has absolutely no charisma. Yeah, it's kind of weird. She really doesn't.
Make no mistake, Republicans will not surrender this fight. We will lead with courage and do what's right, not what's politically correct or convenient. Republicans believe...
She looks like she's doing a 24/7 DreamWorks face, but she sounds like she's always on the verge of crying. It's very off-putting.
Even in America, where strong families thrive in safe communities, where jobs are abundant and paychecks are rising, where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend.
This doesn't mean anything. There's no actual points being made here.
This is our opportunity. A new generation born in the waning decades of the last century, shaped by economic booms and stock market busts, forged by the triumph of the Cold War and the tragedy of leadership from around the region. They had absolutely no idea that the president and first lady were about to walk into that room.
What?
And when they did, it was a sight and a scene and a sound I hope I never forget.
What?
The room erupted. Men and women from every race, religion, and region, every political party, every demographic you can imagine.
Oh, she's saying like Trump walked in the door and everyone coomed?
Started chanting in perfect unison, over and over and over again. USA, USA.
Okay, yeah. They walked in and the lightning bolt struck, and this is a cult? Yeah, it's a cult.
USA. It was an absolutely perfect picture of what makes our country great. One of the young soldiers.
Oh, not Trump. Oh, a soldier? Wait, hold on. Wait. We are talking about Trump, right? Because if a vet walked through a door and everyone dropped their trow to start jerking off, I feel like that'd be kind of weird.
Yelled from the back.
Okay,
Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the
Trump.
military
Yes,
because
Trump.
of you. And the president said, and son, I'm here because of you.
Wait, are we talking about Trump? Okay, I've got to go back further. Who would enlist because of Trump, the draft dodger? What?
And when they did,
Mr. President, I enlisted because of you. You dodged the draft, so they had to get another guy, and it was me. I lost my leg.
it was a sight and a scene from around the region. They had absolutely no idea. In a dining hall where hundreds of troops who were in the fight against ISIS had gathered expecting to celebrate Christmas with senior military leadership.
I'm so bored of this. Oh my God. There's nothing here.
Reached up and he pulled the Brave Rifles patch he wore on his shoulder, and he placed it into my hand, a sign of ultimate respect. And he said, Sarah, we are in this together. Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless.
Why am I listening to I feel like this is like spoken word erotic literature, the kind that you would find in the one corner of the bookstores, where it's a bunch of women in lingerie being held by werewolves or something, or firefighters. That's the way this is being described really makes it sound like a AO3 Cracker Barrel gift shop item. Yeah.
I just hugged him with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep us free.
Okay, nice. Live streamers. Oh, that was cool. We definitely observed the State of the Union. The Union definitely had a state, and we observed it.